crack cocaine. Have you ever thought about trying it? Have you ever tried it? I haven't. However, I might as well have. After playing the game I'll be talking about today, I would imagine that I was acting the same as someone who was on cocaine, booger, sugar, crack, white shit. What is said game, you may be asking? Well, the game I'll be talking about today is called Graveyard Shift at Freddy's. This game is really fucking hard. I called Mary's Arcade the Dark Souls of FNAF fan games. This is the Elden Ring. Granted, I will be the first to admit that I'm absolutely terrible at FNAF games, no doubt about it, but I struggled more with this one than with Mary's Arcade, so eat my nuts, it's harder. Graveyard Shift at Freddy's also shares one glaring similarity with another game I've covered on this channel, A Shadow Over Freddy's. That similarity being, the creator of the game has removed it from Game Jolt and finding it isn't very easy. You guys hated it when I called A Shadow Over Freddy's banned, so I won't be making the mistake of calling it that again to avoid the outcome of you all pissing yourselves. But I will say that finding this game was a little more difficult than finding A Shadow Over Freddy's, since the developer of the game is doing everything in her power to remove uploads of it, but rest assured, if you look long enough, you'll find it. She can't beat all of us. The reason this game was deleted, as I'm sure you could probably guess, is because the creator is a slimy, greasy little hobgoblin degenerate. Of course, it's always the devs of amazing games who end up being the worst. Hint hint, Jonachrome, but I'll touch on that at the end of the video. Separating the art from the artist, Graveyard Shift at Freddy's is honestly a masterpiece. There's definitely some things about it I want to complain about, go figure, that's pretty much all I do on this channel, but I can't neglect how fantastic it really is. The level of detail is impeccable, and I'm excited to share it here today with you. Before I get into this game, I do want to give a warning for those who are not familiar. If you are light sensitive or have a condition like epilepsy, it might be best for you to just turn this on for sound in the background, as a lot of this game has flashing lights, and I will be showing it on screen. Just had to get that out of the way. So without further ado, let's dive into my most recent therapy session topic, Graveyard Shift at Freddy's. A Graveyard Shift at Freddy's begins with a text-based cutscene. Get used to this because you'll be seeing way more. We're told from the view of a news broadcast that a journalist by the name of Sam Rodriguez has been missing, following a story about an eatery called Fredbears. After Sam went into the building to investigate, he's never been seen since. Fun fact, we actually play as Sam, so this indicates to us that this news broadcast must be happening sometime in the future. I will talk about the rest of these text-based cutscenes at the end of the video. I just wanted to really establish that we are playing as Sam right now. So again, I'll cover the rest of them and I'll recap this night's one, but for now, we're just going to talk about the game like I like to do. Night 1 begins and we open to our office. This is where I want to pause for a moment just to say that the graphics in this damn game, I'm not ever one to give too much of a shit about video game graphics. I care much more about gameplay and story. My favorite game is Undertale, and the graphics of that game are kinda ass, but god damn, this game looks great. Anyways, on night 1, we get a call from the owner of the restaurant. His name is Mr. Raglan. Raglan tells us about how the shift is going to work, of course, leaving out the fact that the animatronics move in typical FNAF fashion. The mechanics of this game are solid, I can't lie. There's not a whole lot to complain about, except one teensy tiny little problem. To start, we have cameras like any other FNAF game, and in our office we have a big ticket booth in front of us. At any time we can pull down a large metal door to block it off, and when we do, a hydraulics meter slowly goes down. If it ever empties, it will open back up. Once you open the door, that hydraulic meter will start to climb back up. Also in our office is a light that lights up the ticket window, which thankfully doesn't run on any power, and we can use it as much as we want. However, you do have to pull down the glass covering it every time you push it, something I just found a little weird. On your desk, you'll find a router. If you switch through your cameras too quickly, which I assure you, you will be doing quite frequently, the cameras will begin to go, as Mr. Raglan said, quite funky. The screen just gets super pixelated and you won't be able to see dick. To fix this, you'll need to turn off the router in your office for a few seconds and then flip it back on. Super simple. If you look back in the cameras, you'll see an alarm button. This is used to stop animatronics. animatronics. I know that explanation is vague, but once I start talking about the animatronics, it will make much more sense, so just hang in there, champ. Lastly, you might notice the other button in the camera, mentioning a speed up. Remember when I mentioned there's one teensy tiny little mechanic I'm not the biggest fan of? This is that mechanic. You might notice there are no camera buttons. That's because in a Graveyard Shift F Freddy's, you have no control over the cameras. No. Instead, there's a switch time visible on the cameras that slowly goes down. Once it's empty, it will automatically switch to the next camera, starting from camera 1 and going to camera 7, then restarting at 1 again. Using the speed up button will make the time go down significantly faster. You can, however, drop your camera to stall this timer. If it hasn't yet sunk in how soul-suckingly excruciating this mechanic is yet, just give it a bit. You'll soon understand. There is one more mechanic in this game, but it isn't introduced until Night 3, so I'll cover it then. But now, I should probably talk about Night 1 and the threats it poses. In Night 1, there's only one threat, and that's Bonnie. Bonnie will move around the cameras until he moves into an attack phase. There are 3 different ways that Bonnie can get into your office. How is that possible if there's only the ticket window? I hear you asking in anticipation for my genius 200 IQ response. Well, in addition to the ticket window, there's actually a door to your office behind you. Some animatronics will be able to attack you from that door as well, but if you really want to shart your pants, the catch is you can't fucking turn around. So, how do you deal with animatronics that attack from that door? Well, that's simple. You just don't let them get there. And that's where the alarm mechanic comes in handy. Most places Bonnie goes aren't very important. There are only 2 cameras that really matter when it comes to Bonnie, camera 5 and camera 6. When Bonnie first reaches camera 5, he will be in either one of 2 locations. One location where he's standing in the middle of the room, which I will be calling the safe location, and another location where he's standing right next to the employees only door, which happens to be pretty much right behind you. I will be calling this location the bad location. If you ever see Bonnie in the safe location, then you know you can just let him keep moving, as he will always move into camera 6 next. But if Bonnie is in the bad location, you'll have to use your alarm to distract him, and when you do, he'll very creepily look at you, which I think is really cool, and once you use the alarm on him, you'll know that he'll move to camera 6. Once Bonnie has made it to camera 6, he once again has 2 locations he can be at: a safe location where he's standing far away from the camera, and a bad location where he's standing close to the camera and peeking around a corner or doorway. I can't really tell. It's kind of hard to see on cameras a lot of the time. Same with camera 5. If Bonnie's in a safe location, you can ignore him, and if Bonnie is in the bad location, you just use the alarm on him to distract him and set him on the right path. Sounds difficult? Well, keep in mind, you can't really check cameras 5 and 6 because of the stupid fucking timer. Once Bonnie makes it to camera 6 and is in a safe location, or has been distracted by the alarm, he will then skip camera 7 and go straight to your window. This is another point where I really just want to sit back and look at how amazing this game's animations are. When Bonnie, or any animatronic for that matter, comes to your window, the animation quality they have while doing so is incredible. But obviously, when Bonnie is at your window, close the door, wait for his footsteps to be heard before reopening it. And congrats, you've dealt with Bonnie's cycle. He's just gonna keep doing that over and over again. Have fun. I actually think that Bonnie is the most difficult animatronic to deal with. You'll understand why when I talk about everybody else. Even though his mechanic is really easy, when you pair it with what everybody else does, his easily becomes the hardest. That was just Night 1. We have a bunch more characters to talk about, so I hope you're ready. Night 2 gives us Miss Thickums herself, Chica, and her cupcake, which the game calls Cream. If I'm being honest with you, this game makes me do the same. Chica is pretty easy to deal with. She can only attack from the ticket window, and she'll only appear at the ticket window if you find her on the cameras. When you do, she'll bolt off at the speed of Tyson Gay, and when you pull your camera down, she'll be leaning into your window. All you have to do is close the gate, but you will notice that it takes Chica much longer to leave than Bonnie, so that's just something to make you rip your ball sack off and throw it in a river. Cream, on the other hand, is not easy to deal with, and in all honesty makes me want to stick my willy in a beehive. Cream appears on camera 7, and similar to Foxy from FNAF 1, has multiple different stages that she will move through before entering her attack phase. The first 2 phases both have sound cues, which are just the sounds of a vent. However, upon entering her 3rd stage, she does this really awesome thing where she doesn't make fucking noise at all, and you're left to just shit your britches and hope you both notice, and remember to check camera 7. Once she reaches her final phase, all you need to do is use the alarm on her camera and she'll piss off. But it is critical to keep in mind that you also have to take care of all the other bullshit this game has to throw at you, including the stupid fucking automatically switching cameras. I can't handle it. Night 3 introduces a character that makes me want to wipe my ass with sandpaper, Barry the Bat. Barry adds something that this game didn't need at all, something so atrociously frustrating that I want to rip all my teeth out, get dentures, and then rip all the teeth out of the dentures. Barry the Bat effectively acts as a music box. In a game where you can't fucking control which camera you're looking at, isn't that fantastic? No. Ding ding ding, we have a fucking genius in the crowd, guys. Barry the Bat is on camera 5, which I'm very grateful for since that's also where Bonnie makes his dumb little idiot pick a path decision. So at least I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone on this camera. I should say that Barry's music box isn't literally a music box. Instead, music will be playing, and when music is playing, Barry doesn't move. However, the music is on a timer. After a certain point, which is indicated by a small little white bar, the music will stop, and you will have to turn it back on by going to camera 5. While the music box is not playing, Barry will make her way through 5 different states, just like Cream. However, there's also this really silly little side effect where once Barry moves forward a state, she will never move back for the rest of the night. That means that if the music stops and you're busy dealing with Bonnie, staring at Cream, waiting 8 centuries for Chica to leave your door, dealing with some bullshit that the other animatronics do that I'll be talking about soon, or just scratching her ass and smelling it, then Barry will just move her happy ass through all the stages, and there will be no way for you to make her go back. God, if you can hear me, please, just kill me. Can you do that for me? Thank you. Night 4 introduces Sheriff Slithers. Look at this little fucking goon. This little ugly, slithery shit. This little goop-ass snake. I just fucking... This motherfucker right here rapes me with that hat on. He rides me like a cowboy, ropes me up with a lasso, and stabs me with those little stupid boot spikes. I hate this little idiot so much I can't even describe it to you. This little moron right here is why this game is so goddamn hard. Let me explain. From a glance, Sheriff Slither's mechanic is simple. He will appear on a camera, and all you have to do is look at him for a small amount of time, and he'll happily go away. But, and this is a very large but, he can appear on any camera besides 7 at complete random. He makes a sound cue, but my god is it quiet. So quiet it might not even fucking be there. The amount of times I've died just because of this little dunce is immeasurable. His mechanic is so easy, but paired with every other mechanic you have to deal with that is also annoying as hell, this little guy becomes the straw that breaks the camel's back. I'd say I'd want to rip my hair out because of this guy, but I already have, and I've also waited for it to grow back just so that I could rip it out again. Fuck Sheriff Slithers, he's a bitch. But now I get to talk to you about Night 5, and if you know anything about the relationship between Night 5 and me in FNAF games, then you'd know I'm about to complain even more because not only is our relationship toxic, it's also incredibly abusive. But I need to get this out of my system. Night 5 introduces the man, the myth, the used car salesman, Freddy, or who this game chooses to call Freddy Bear or Dreddy Bear in this night. Dreddy Bear, if I were to describe him to you, I'd probably say he's like if you took a pile of shit that's been pissed on, go ahead and throw it in the microwave for like 10 minutes while it's in a Ziploc bag, take it out, open up that puppy, stick your face right in it, and just take a big whiff. Just a long 8-second inhale. That is what Dreddy Bear is like in this godforsaken game. Freddy moves his way through the cameras like most other characters, except there's a really sick and totally awesome little quirk about him. Similar to Barry the Bat, there's no way to ever make Dreddy Bear move backward. Once he reaches your office, it's game over. Not even closing the ticket window will make him go away. You're just fucked. So, what you have to do is constantly look at him for as long as you can. He can't move while you're looking at him. Now, let's think about some things that could possibly make watching Dreddy Bear difficult, shall we? Well, to start, there's Cream, who you constantly have to check up on after you hear her second sound cue. Then we've got Barry, whose bitch ass needs me to watch her camera for when the music stops playing and starts throwing a little temper tantrum. We can't forget my favorite little fucker, Sheriff Slithers, who can appear on any camera at complete fucking random. Oh, and let's not forget the most infuriating part about needing to constantly watch the character. It's kind of fucking hard to do that when the cameras switch on the goddamn own and there's jack fuck shit I can do about it. So Dreddy Bear, Dreddy Boy, Dreddy Butt, Dreddy Bitch, Dreddy Boo isn't super fun to deal with. But just for a moment, let's imagine what it would be like if you were to beat Night 5. In fact, I'll even show you exactly what happens. What reward do you get for all of your suffering? Come on, let's take a look together. That's right. Dreddy Bear says, "Fuck yo goddamn window, little insignificant idiot," and just rips that shit right open and butt fucks you anyways. And yes, that is actually how the game ends. Is that not insane to you? Put aside the fact how badass the final cutscene looked, but just ask yourself, was it worth it? Because damn, rip main character. Imagine doing the impossible just to be fucked anyways. Absolutely crazy. Oh yeah, and in true FNAF style, there's also a challenge mode called Grave Danger mode, but I'm sure you could already have taken a guess. I didn't even pour a minute of my time into that bullshit. But that's what Graveyard Shift at Freddy's has to offer. But there are still two more things I want to talk about before we wrap this video up. The first thing I want to mention is the lore of this game. Remember at the beginning of the video when I said I'd get back to those text cutscenes? This is that point of the video, because it's honestly some of the coolest shit I've ever witnessed. Before each night, we're given some text on screen that unveils little pieces of the story, as I've previously mentioned. Before I start talking about the story, I do want to clarify that I don't know the story for certain. What I'm talking about and what I'm about to say is strictly my theory. I've already covered Night 1's pregame text, but I'll do it again. It seems to be straight from a news broadcast where the anchor mentions how their very own Sam Rodriguez has gone missing after doing a story about visiting the Freddy Bears location, and nobody knows where he is. That's about all this night gives us. However, Night 2's pregame text seems to be from the perspective of the restaurant owner Raglan and a health inspector. The health inspector mentions how the mascots are stinky and, before leaving, notices the floor sounds hollow and is emitting a strange smell. When he mentions this, it noticeably makes Raglan uncomfortable. Raglan states that it's just the cellar where they store things. When the health inspector asks to see, Raglan seems hesitant, but then shows him. At this point, we don't learn what's down there, but we'll get back to that shortly. Night 3's pregame text comes from a journal entry of who I can only assume is Raglan. Raglan writes that he's told the animatronics to not try and leave the establishment, and that one night after closing, a character named Wolfgang tried to leave. However, after nearing the door, he presumably got set ablaze and fucking died, because when Raglan came back the next day, there were ashes left on the floor. Raglan took these ashes and showed them to the other animatronics and told them if they tried to leave, the same would happen to them. This was interesting to me. Not only does leaving the building cause the characters to die, this shows that the characters can die and are therefore alive, which would lead me to believe that they're not just possessed mascots like in most other FNAF games, but are instead their own living organisms, which is honestly deeply disturbing to think about. But if that is the case, then what I still don't understand is why the animatronics would be trying to attack us, unless they were maybe being controlled by something else. Night 4's pregame text seems to take place between two parties, Sam Rodriguez's parent and their lawyer, and Raglan and his lawyer. They attempt to settle a dispute about where the missing Sam is, and his mother angrily lashes out at Raglan and his lawyer, saying how he just wants to see her boy again, claiming that Raglan's eatery has a known track record for disappearances, and that she knows Raglan is the cause of her son's disappearance. Night 5's pregame text reveals something crazy though. It's another journal entry from Raglan, this time years after his last, in 2017, the year this game takes place. Raglan questions how it has gone this far and that they should have gotten him by now, which could only be questioning how Sam has survived so many nights and how he's surprised that the characters hadn't killed him yet. Raglan mentions how the system they have has always worked so well, which would lead me to believe that he had a plan to have Sam killed by the mascots and that he has done this multiple times before. He mentions how back when he was in Sam's position years ago, he had made it this far, and on this night, Night 5, Freddy Bear appeared, except he looked and acted way differently. He mentioned how Freddy Bear was, quote, beyond hunger, end quote, which I actually believe is literal. We know in Night 5 that Freddy Bear did look much different from the other animatronic, contorting in unnatural ways, and after that night we see a newspaper clipping talking about Sam's disappearance and how it came 4 weeks after the disappearance of a health inspector named Gibson Newman. Sound familiar? It should, because that's the exact health inspector mentioned in the Night 2's pregame text. I believe that Sam Raglan is hiring people to work at this establishment so that the mascots can kill them and eat them. Since I believe they're living organisms, that would only mean that they need to get energy somehow, and referencing how Raglan said Freddy Bear was, quote, beyond hunger, end quote, that could only mean that it's because he hadn't killed Sam yet, and Freddy Bear decided on Night 5 that he would take killing Sam into his own hands so that they could eat. I believe that both the reason the mascots smell bad and the cellars smelled bad was because the cellar is where the dead bodies of the previous victims were kept, and some of the bodily remains were caked into the fur of the mascots. I believe that the mascots are being controlled by some sort of demons that are confined to the restaurant, and that's why Wolfgang turned into ash when he attempted to leave. Steve Raglan is stuck finding new victims for them to kill and eat so that they don't turn around and kill him instead. That's why he was getting so nervous when he realized they hadn't killed Sam yet. But I don't think that's all. I think the mascots were all fucking with Sam the whole time. Freddy Bear is clearly strong enough to open the ticket booth door when it's down, as seen in Night 5, and I'm willing to bet that the others could do that as well. I think that the mascots are smart enough to know that you think you're playing a game and that your office is the safe point, and that the ticket booth door is the way you protect yourself in this, quote, game. I think the animatronics are knowingly playing along. Look at Chica, for example. When she's at the ticket window, she's clearly leaning into your office. Yet, instead of attacking you, she waits for you to close the window, and when you do, you can clearly visibly see her move out of the way so that it can close. These mascots know they can kill you at any time. They just wanted to play along and make you think you have a chance. All the way up to the last second when Freddy Bear finally decides the game's over, even in his final moments telling you your time playing the game is up.
Five Nights at Freddy's games don't scare me. Even the jump scares never typically get me to scream, shout, quiver in my boots, and defecate in my britches. However, the game I'll be covering today did. Not only that, but this game, this masterpiece, is probably one of, if not the coolest Five Nights at Freddy's fan game I've ever played. Today, I'll be covering their return to Bloody Nights. Released in 2023 on Game Jolt by Kazovsky, it serves as a prequel to the official Five Nights at Freddy's series, taking place before the events of Five Nights at Freddy's 2. So you already know this game is about to be packed to the brim with lore, and after hearing that, I really begin to quiver in fear, because covering lore makes me want to drop cheeks on my desk and quake my entire house. I personally care much more about gameplay. Can't enjoy the story if the game itself is worse than shitting in a public school bathroom. So let's jump right into the return to Bloody Nights. I'm sure I won't lose my mind, even a little bit. Starting up the game, we're greeted to an opening cutscene, where we can see Spring Bonnie playing a tune and getting his jiggy on. We appear to be inside a Freddy costume, and given when this game is taking place, I can only assume that this is either a Golden Freddy suit or a Fredbear suit. Looking around in the suit, I noticed literally Satan chilling in the darkness. Sup, Satan? And shortly thereafter, we're thrown into the menu. The return to Bloody Nights has the typical Five Nights formula, with a difficult 6th night at the end. Split up into days of the week, it gives it a bit more character, which also makes sense. When a girl asks you what day it is, you don't say the 4th day, you say Thursday like a normal person. But all you little freak geeks probably respond by instantly jeebing in your pants because a woman has never spoken to you before because you're chronically online. Don't lie, we all are. Nothing to be embarrassed about. Jumping into night 1, we first have to wait for a phone call to play out between Henry and William. Since this takes place before the official games, it can only be assumed that at this point in time, Henry already had his restaurant, and William was currently working on his own. Before every night, we get a phone call just like this. Henry checks up on William's progress with the animatronics. William talks and makes me incredibly uncomfortable. Seriously, the voice actors in this game did an amazing job of playing the parts. Oh, and I can't forget my favorite part, getting to hear Henry tell William that safety comes first about 800 times per phone call.
I want to make sure that our establishments are safe for everyone who comes through our doors. I still want you to take your time with the project. Rushing things could lead to mistakes.
But I do need to move quickly if we're going to open in time.
I know, but please keep safety in mind, above all else.
Honestly, if I was William and I had to hear Henry tell me the same thing a million times, I probably would have killed those kids too. Moving into the office, we get to listen to yet another phone call. Holy shit, I'm gonna tear my pubes out. I know this game is more focused on lore, but holy shit, I downloaded the game to play it. If I wanted a story, I'd get a visual novel. In all honesty though, the in-office phone calls are actually also great. Again, the voice actor did an amazing job playing the part. He tells us about the restaurant, whatever the fuck. Tell me about the robots, bro. That's what I'm interested in. Night 1 introduces Spring Bonnie. I'm sure you could have guessed. This game takes place in Fredbears' family diner. We play as a guy named Scott, which I might add is probably the whitest name of all time. Spring Bonnie does exactly what you think he does. Starts on the show stage, shimmies around the cameras like he just sprayed some cologne in the air, and brings it around town to your right side office door. It's at this point where I should establish how the doors work in this game. You'll notice that there are no lights. However, you do have a flashlight, so you can flash that puppy into the doorways to see what's there. However, you'll notice that your flashlight doesn't illuminate the entire doorway, so you'll have to move your flashlight around to actually see the full picture. It's also because of this that we get my favorite part of this entire game. Oh my fucking god! Holy shit! Oh my god, that was fucking cool as shit. Oh my god, bro. Holy shit, that was awesome. The moment I saw this, I thought to myself, yep, for sure. This game's getting a white video. The fear in my voice in that clip was genuine. I know a lot of creators on this site like to fake and hype up their reactions because it makes good content, but if you watch my second channel, Dxtr Black, you'd know that all of my reactions are real. So not often will you catch me getting scared like that, but hot damn was this cool. As I'm sure you could guess, when you see Spring Bonnie in the doorway geeked out of his mind, you need to close the door and wait for a sound cue letting you know he's left. With only one animatronic, I'm sure you could guess that this night is incredibly easy, so let's move on to night 2. Night 2 introduces Fredbear. He acts the same way as Spring Bonnie, except he attacks the left door rather than the right. Since that's pretty boring, let's talk about the cameras and why I think this game does animatronic movement correctly compared to other games. Something I've noticed in a lot of FNAF games is that characters have a path. No shit, that's how it's always been. But you'll notice in most games that this path is very basic. For example, I move from camera 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 and then arrive at your door. Very basic. This game and a few others do something really cool. Rather than just appearing in one camera and teleporting to another, the characters in the Return to Bloody Nights will instead have multiple phases on each camera, kind of like Foxy from Five Nights at Freddy's 1, wherein, if you're watching the cameras, you will see Spring Bonnie, for example, go from the show stage to standing off of the show stage, and then he'll transfer to another camera, and in most cases, each character has at least 2 phases on each camera that they enter, which really gives a feeling of realism to the game, as it seems like you actually get to see the characters walking around rather than just teleporting from camera to camera like most Five Nights at Freddy's games. Another game that pulls this off really well is A Bite at Freddy's, a FNAF fan game I've covered on this channel, and you can watch my review of it after you finish this one. It's a fantastic video if I do say so myself, which I do. Anyways, on to Wednesday, which introduces 3 new threats, those threats being, hold on a second, 3 new threats in one night? Did I read that right? Hold on, let me check. Oh my god. Yeah, Yeah, that's right. 3 new animatronics become active on this night. God damn. Talk about going from 1 to 100 in a fraction of a second, good lord. Well, let's start going over them, shall we? Starting with the least infuriating of the 3, we have the puppet. An area of your office I have yet to mention is the prize corner, which is directly behind you. Here you will be able to see prizes. Who would have thought? This is also where you can see a bunch of fun references like Sonic, FNAF, Cuphead, and a bunch more. I had a lot of fun pointing out as many references as I could while playing, which you can see in my full playthrough on my second channel, Dxtr Black. The puppet has a chance to appear at any time throughout the night behind you in the prize corner. It doesn't move through the cameras, so there's no way to predict when it's going to attack. However, thankfully it does play a sound cue that lets you know it has appeared behind you, telling you to get off that computer call and kiss it on its hot mouth. When you hear this bell jingling sound cue, you have to quickly whip around and find it in one of 3 locations with your flashlight. Once you find it, it'll quickly hide away like a bitch and you're free to continue. The puppet is really never a problem throughout the nights, acting more of an annoying distraction than a real threat. But now, I get the misfortune of talking about the other 2 threats that this night places in my anus. So let's cover the spawn camping dickhead, Fredbear 2.0. Fredbear 2.0 doesn't appear on the cameras. Instead, he appears right outside of your right door. That's where he starts. Yeah, he begins the night already outside of your door. And that's the furthest away he'll ever get from you. Isn't that just the worst thing you've ever heard in your life? I think I'd rather be diagnosed with butthole cancer. Fredbear 2.0 has multiple phases before his actual attack. You'll have to constantly flash your light in the left doorway to check his progress, which takes your attention away from a crucial character you need to watch on the cameras, whom I will talk about in a moment. As he gets closer and closer, you'll get to hear him talking right in your fucking ear, which is a pain in the ass because I'm trying to listen for movements and bell jingling at the same time. So I'd really appreciate it if you'd hop off my cock. When Fredbear 2.0 gets to your door, he will crouch down to try to get in. Which, by the way, looks crazy cool. I love animations like this in FNAF games. It adds so much life to them. Something you'll notice about Fredbear 2.0 in comparison to the other animatronics that attack your doors is that he appears to linger at them for much longer than the others. You wouldn't be crazy for thinking that either, because he does. When Fredbear 2.0 crouches down, he won't instantly enter your office like Fredbear and Spring Bonnie do. Instead, he'll wait about 8 seconds before actually attacking you, giving you time to check on the puppet and Mr. Dickhole, who I'll be covering next. That may sound like a nice gesture. Aw, he's giving me time to worry about my other problems. What an emotionally intelligent guy. No, this guy is a dick. Something I should mention is that there is no power system. However, there is generator heat. What causes the generator to go up? That's right, using your doors. No matter how much you think you're going to be able to consistently time out when Fredbear 2.0 is going to attack, I promise you that you'll get it wrong a few times. And because you know that you're going to get it wrong, you'll probably feel inclined to play it safe and close it sooner than you technically need to. And this is where he gets you. Because even if you close the door early, his timer still has to count all the way down before he attacks, leaving you with your generator heat increasing while that dickhead just stands there like a dunce for half a century. On later nights, you'll be getting attacked pretty frequently, so having this guy waste even a few seconds with your door closed can be the cause of a run to end later down the line. Alright, I can't put it off any longer. I need to talk about the most infuriating character in this entire game. Spring Bonnie 2.0. Spring Bonnie 2.0 acts much like the original, slowly creeping his way through your cameras until he can reach your office. But there's something interesting to note about him. While he's on the cameras, you can see that he's covering his face often, almost like he's playing hide and seek. And the reason for that? It's because he literally is playing hide and seek. When his robot AI was being designed, they made a hide and seek function that was meant to be used to play with the kids, but instead it's being used to play with my ass like a bongo drum. That doesn't sound too bad, Dxtr. I think you're overreacting. No. Bullshit. No, I'm not. Unlike Spring Bonnie, Spring Bitch 2.0 doesn't appear in your doorway. Instead, he'll just pile drive in. So the key is to watch the final camera he appears on. He has 3 phases in this long hallway, the final of which has him close up and personal to the camera. Once you see him there, he will run out of frame, and you need to quickly close the right door before he busts in and then busts in you. Wait! Before you type in the comments how I'm bad and that this isn't a hard mechanic at all, ooh, it's basically just Foxy, Dxtr, you little bitch boy. Shut the hell up! That's what I thought at first too. However, there's one tiny little tweak that makes him worse than a hangnail that just keeps peeling your skin back the longer you pull on it. Unlike Foxy, who, when you look at him in the hall, his animation starts playing and then you close the door and the cycle continues. Simple. Nope, not Spring Bussy 2.0. He's different. When you look at him on the cameras in his final phase, he won't immediately play his animation like Foxy does. Instead, he's kinda like Fredbear 2.0 in a way, where he has a timer for when he'll actually attack, bringing up the same issue as Fredbear 2.0, where you'll probably end up closing the door earlier than you need to and building up your generator heat. Mixing these two characters together is gruesome. Introducing them both at the same time, on top of another character that demands your attention consistently, downright vile. I'd rather stick my willy in the exhaust pipe of a running motorcycle than deal with these two douchebags ever again in my life. There is one final threat I have yet to mention, but because of the strategy I used to beat this game, I actually never encountered them. That threat being the Golden Cupcake. According to the wiki, he only appears on the third night. Amazing! Fuck 3 threats introduced at the same time, why not 4? He has a chance to appear on any camera, just acting as a visual annoyance. To get him to move, just switch to another camera and he'll disappear. I'm guessing because my strategy only had me using one camera throughout the entire night, it never gave him a chance to spawn. I'm not totally sure, and again, the wiki says he's only active on night 3. Why not nights 4, 5, and 6? I don't really know. This character seems like a weird inclusion. Let me know in the comments if you know more about this little guy. Hey there, future Dxtr here, coming in to inform you with some much needed corrections for something I mentioned earlier. I made a whole big point about introducing Fredbear 2.0 and Spring Bonnie 2.0 at the same time. Apparently, I'm retarded. Fredbear 2.0 isn't introduced until Thursday night. I apologize. I don't know how I got that so incredibly wrong. I probably just remembered how ass I thought that duo was together and misremembered them being introduced at the same time. I don't know. Again, I apologize. Let's get back to the goon session. The remainder of the nights are just more difficult variations of each other. No new characters are introduced. Something crazy you'll notice, however, is the incredible spike in difficulty after Wednesday. Who would have thought being bombarded by AIDS can do a real number on you? This is actually the most common criticism I've seen of this game. The difficulty curve isn't a curve, it's a steep cliff that you're at the bottom of. I recognize why people feel this way, but guys, I was able to beat it. You know, the guy that's actually probably the worst FNAF player of all time. If I did it, you can do it. I promise. Oh, something I decided to not talk about was what happens after each night. Every time you complete a night, we're put into a cutscene where Scott, which again is our character, is scanning the animatronics for paranormal activity. I'm not sure what the name of the device he's using is, but this is what he's doing. I know that because I know how to use context clues. Also because the wiki told me that's what he's doing here. Remember those phone calls I talked about at the beginning of the video? If I want to cover the lore, it's important I talk about those phone calls a bit more. I know. Ugh, Dexter's talking about the lore in a game. He's really bad at that. He's only funny when he's talking about the gameplay. I know, trust me. I'm gonna try my best though, because the story in this game is honestly really, really cool, and I want to share it with you all. I don't want to be like some other game reviewers who tell you to just play the game for yourself to learn more. You're watching reviews to get a review. If you wanted to play the game, you'd just do that. You don't need me telling you to go play it. Night 2's phone call reveals that William has gotten a divorce, and apparently some of the workers are concerned that he's drowning himself in work. Henry tells him that safety comes first. Thank you, Henry. I would have never fucking guessed. Wednesday's call, William begins to brag about his new child-friendly animatronics. These animatronics he's talking about are Fredbear 2.0 and Spring Bastard 2.0. William reveals he's been studying child psychology. Uh-oh. In this day and age, there's only one direction this could be going. Just kidding. This isn't Dormitibus. It's not about to get weird. Afton claims his divorce is taking a toll on his mental health, but he's focusing on work to distract himself. Henry opens up about his feelings like a man never should. Some bullshit about how his only child Charlotte means so much to him, blah blah. Who cares, bro? I'm building fucking robots. That's way cooler than your lame ass kid who can't even wipe her own ass properly. Thursday's phone call reveals that William wants to distance himself from his two sons and focus more on Elizabeth. I also noticed in this phone call that Afton seems a lot more passive-aggressive. Looking back on it now, that probably has something to do with his mental health. But while I was playing, I was rooting for William during these calls because of how sick and tired I was of Henry mentioning safety for the 200th time in a row. Additionally, on Thursday night, we learned that the diner is being shut down due to the disappearance of 6 children. I wonder who could have done that. Friday's phone call gets dark. Henry's daughter fucking died. RIP. Afton doesn't really seem to care. I'm with you there, William. Afton mentions he has to do something, and Henry tries to tell him to not do anything that might have negative consequences. William brushes this off as it seems he's too far gone. I'm assuming that these things that need to be done are the killing of the 6 kids. It's then around this time that William stuffs one of the kids, Cassidy McKay, into the Fredbear 2.0 suit and leaves her to rot inside Fredbear's family diner. Isn't it crazy how fucked up FNAF games are? I often forget how disturbing the actual story is when I'm making videos about these games. After the completion of Night 4, Scott scans Fredbear 2.0, and unlike the other characters scanned previously, the machine we have starts to go nuts when scanning Fredbear 2.0, likely because of the body of Cassidy inside. After the completion of Night 5, we get a monologue from William, explaining how he killed the kids and framed Henry.
It has been many years since the incident that changed everything. I have done unforgivable things since then. The missing children. It was all my doing.
We get the reveal of Circus Baby and hear about Elizabeth getting ganked by her. After the completion of Saturday, we get a cutscene of who I can only assume is Elizabeth, talking about needing to guide the other victims. I'm assuming Elizabeth because of how Baby guides throughout Sister Location, although I could be wrong on who this is. Finally, if you complete this game's max mode, you get one final cutscene, displaying William dying in the Spring Bonnie 2.0 suit, which is in 2D rather than 3D like the rest of the game for some unknown reason. And with that, that's all the Return to Bloody Nights has to offer as far as I'm aware. Overall, I really liked this game, but I can understand why a lot of people don't. Sure, it looks really pretty and the story is amazing, having us play as the phone guy from FNAF 1 and 2, but I think this game focuses too much on story and not enough on gameplay. Sure, the Game Jolt page does say it's primarily about the story, but I can still understand why people dislike the gameplay loop for being too repetitive and difficult, even though that's how most FNAF games end up panning out. I'm pretty sure the community liked Post Shift 2 more, which that game is just brutally difficult and confusing for the sake of being brutally difficult and confusing. So I guess that tells you where the community really is, where some appreciate Post Shift 2 over this game in terms of gameplay, which is wild, I will add.
Well guys, another day, another new FNAF fan game coming out of the woodworks, and that FNAF fan game being spammed in my comments until I cover it. Usually when this happens, of course, I'm inclined to look at the project that people are talking about, and a lot of the time I add that game to my list of games to play over on Dxtr Black. Well, today is no different. One of the newest FNAF fan games to come out this year is none other than Fred and Pals, the game we'll be covering in today's video. Plenty of people have asked to hear about this one, and for a pretty damn good reason. There's a lot to talk about. So strap in as I talk about the highs and the lows of Fred and Pals. Wasting no time at all in detaching my balls and gently tossing them into Night 1, we already have a bit to talk about. Mainly the tools at our disposal, how they function, and why it makes me want to put my balls in a meat grinder. To start, we have several directions we can look in inside of our office. Obviously, we can look directly in front of us, to both sides of us, and of course, behind us. In front of us is our camera system. To our left and right, we have our doors, and right behind us is a power switch, but we'll talk about that later.
What is important is this little handheld device we have, the SMU. While looking behind us or while standing next to either of the doors, we'll be able to pull up this device. While it's held, you'll be able to select any of the 4 characters in this game. And by holding down the trigger, we can shoot something in the direction we're aiming. What are we shooting? That I don't know the answer to. The device only has 3 shots in it before it needs to recharge, so we can't just be spamming this thing throughout the whole night. Unfortunate, I know, but I guess video game balancing will do what it has to do. Speaking of these characters we need to shoot, who are they? Well, actually, before we talk about that, you're getting ahead of yourself. We need to talk about the cameras first. Oh boy, the cameras. This is a lot more than you think it's going to be. Fred and pals decided that the camera system is where they needed to deviate from the normal FNAF game. And while I do appreciate the creativity, I don't appreciate it by itself. I want to preface, it's not bad, it's just a lot. To start, there is a metric shitload of cameras. Of course, my favorite thing when it comes to cameras, you can't move your mouse to select which one you want to use. You have to use A and D to scroll through each of the cameras. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. However, unlike most other FNAF games that use this mechanic, it's not the slowest thing on planet Earth. No, quite the opposite, actually. You can scroll through cameras so quickly that sometimes you'll surf through 2 on accident. It is incredibly easy to do this and will 100% lead to you getting lost as to which camera you're currently looking at and figuring out how far away you are from the camera you actually want to look at. Speaking of looking at the cameras, let's talk about how fucking sick these ones look. They use night vision, which is why they're so green, but it also puts this crazy filter over them, which I think looks incredible. But hush up, I'm not done talking about how the camera controls. I know I'm all over the place with my explanations right now, but I don't care. You may be thinking while looking at these cameras, hey Dxtr, these camera shots are kind of small. Why aren't the cameras scrolling back and forth? Fantastic question. The answer to that is you have to scroll them yourself. I'm getting flashbacks to late shift at Nintendo World. Please don't do this to me again. You have to click and drag with your mouse to scroll the cameras. But the best part, the cameras scroll in the opposite direction that you drag it in. So that's a bit disorienting to get used to, but get used to it, you must. The last thing to talk about before we move on to the threats, moving back to the doors, on top of being able to murk animatronics with our SMU, we can also close the doors like normal people. However, the doors are controlled with a crank of all things for some odd reason. No idea why, that seems pretty weird. But that means that the door can only be closed as long as you're holding it. But we'll get more into doors and how useful they are a bit later. For now, let's talk about the one threat this night introduces, Fluppy. Yes, by the way, I'm serious. That is actually this character's name. It's really just Bonnie, but the devs thought that the name changes in this game is what they needed to crack down on. Don't get me wrong, I love all the silly names in this game, but I do need to point out how silly they are. Fluppy's goal is to make it to your left door, just like Bonnie from FNAF 1. He will slowly creep through all of the cameras until he gets there. And this is where I want to mention how fucking nasty these characters look, especially the poses that they're put in on these cameras. Seriously, look at Fluppy, bro. Tell me it doesn't look like he's a child predator. He does. Child predator ass rabbit. Look at that. Fucking look at that look in his eyes, dude. What do you think he doing on a regular basis besides grooming minors on Discord? Anyways, moving past that, once Fluppy gets to the storage closet and has a successful movement opportunity, he will enter the doorway to your office. However, you will not be able to see him in your doorway since it's too dark. This gives you a reason to be keeping track of him on the camera, because if you don't, you're going to get fucked up because he doesn't make a sound cue when he's at your door. When he is at your door, you need to pull out your gun, select Fluppy, and well, just watch what happens next. Boom, bitch! I didn't like that. Yeah, honestly, one of the creepiest animations I've ever seen. The moment I saw this, I knew this was going to be getting a Dxtr White video, and here we are now. Once you shoot him, he will go back to the stage and the cycle will continue. Survive until 6 AM, and we'll move on to night 2. Night 2 is pretty much the same as Night 1. To start, we obviously get a phone call from the phone guy. He asks us if we used our SMU on Fluppy. Obviously, we know we did. He says they found him standing in the back room looking up at the light. They went to grab something, and when they came back, he was back on stage. I have a real question. Why on earth? Why the fuck ever would you work at a place like this? You're telling me that the robots are moving, you don't know why they're moving, you're positive they shouldn't be moving, and yet here you are, still working while they're doing so. I feel like any sane person would get the fuck out of there immediately, but I digress. Night 2 introduces one new threat, that being Chica, or as this game calls her, Henrietta. Henrietta, as I'm sure you could have assumed, works in the exact same way as Fluppy does, except she attacks your right door instead of your left. Same rules apply to her. When she enters the doorway, which just like Fluppy, you won't be able to see, all you have to do is select her on the SMU and blast her ass and she'll go back on stage. This night did bring up a concern that I had, however, and that comes with the way the cameras operate. I mentioned how you can't just select any camera that you want, and you have to surf through each of them one by one. Mechanics like that always make me nervous in FNAF games since it takes away a large element of your control. And in a genre like FNAF where control isn't really something you have, I'm sure you could understand how this would get pretty scary. So this brings up the beginning of a flourishing strategy. To avoid switching cameras as much as possible, I needed to figure out which cameras were the last cameras that both Fluppy and Henrietta appeared on. That way I could just camp those cameras and not have to worry about constantly following them around. So I learned that Fluppy's last camera is the storage room and Henrietta's last camera is the delivery camera. And with those two important pieces of information in my noggin, we're safe to move on to Night 3. With Night 3 coming along, a new character is added. This character leads to a new strategy needing to be thought up. But before we talk about this new character, I want to talk about the phone call we get on this night, as it gives some pretty interesting information. To start, phone guy mentions that Henrietta was found in the kitchen banging pots and pans, but when he entered to investigate, she froze, which I think is really fucking creepy. It's like some Toy Story shit. She only moves when you're not looking. He explains that she's supposed to do that during the day to make the kids think she's cooking, but during the night, it should be impossible. The second thing he brings up is their head technician who should be coming to fix this problem. His name is Will. Now, could it be a coincidence that the name of this technician is a shortened version of FNAF's main antagonist? Well, yes, it very well could be. Do I think it is? No, not really. We don't get much information about him on this night, however. Anyways, moving on to the threat this night introduces. Voss. This game's Foxy. Except you want to hear something really funny? He doesn't work how Foxy works at all, and he actually makes me piss fire. Voss is present in the sheriff camera. If you pull up your camera, you'll notice several areas are red and have an electricity symbol present next to them. Throughout the night, Voss will progress through multiple stages on his starting camera. When he leaves this camera, you will hear him whistle. When he whistles, that signals to you that he has gone to one of the cameras with a fuse box. You will have to quickly find which camera he went to and hold space to send him back. So, technically another find them on the camera mechanic, which I'm not too thrilled about. However, at least there's only 4 cameras he can be on. And if you're anything like me, you remembered the tap pattern to get to each one so you can quickly navigate all of them. Oh yeah, and I totally forgot to mention that one of the fuse boxes is directly behind you. I totally forgot that my office has one of those too. Oh my god. I'm paranoid. Yeah, that caught me off guard pretty well and kind of scared the shit out of me, but hey, I think that's actually really cool that during a find them on the camera moment, the character can also choose to show up in your office. Do I like that it's a find them on the camera mechanic? No, but at least it's slightly different than the usual. But knowing that he makes a sound cue, the strategy from last night hasn't changed all that much, and we can move on to Night 4. Night 4 brings a threat I'm honestly not sure how to beat, if I'm being completely honest. Quick recap of the phone call. Voss is misbehaving like Fluppy and Henrietta have been, and Fred did something odd. He stopped performing during the day and leaned forward, a bunch of oil spilling out of his chest. Phone guy used the SMU to restart him, but instead of continuing to play, his head just snapped towards him. Personally, I would shit myself. Apparently using the SMU in front of customers is against the rules, and now Phone Guy has a meeting with the executives tomorrow, so we'll see how that goes. I personally think that's a little silly. What would they prefer he do? Just leave Fred leaning with oil leaking out of him in front of the children so they think he fucking died? What would have been a better choice in these guys' eyes? Anyways, tonight introduces Fred, and like I said, I'm not totally sure how he works. And that will make sense as I talk about him, I promise. Fred will slowly make his way to your office, and he can attack either of your doors. Every time he moves, he laughs, so that's nice. And when he's at your door, he also laughs. So following him on the cameras is not necessary at all, which I love since there's already a lot in this game. Now, when Fred gets to your door is when I get confused. You can see me live trying to figure out how to deal with him over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. At first, I just tried using the SMU on him, which seemed to work when I did, but then he killed me. The next thing I thought was maybe he's just a close the door on him character, so I tried that, but then this happened. Oh shit, I don't think I'm ever supposed to let him get here. Or maybe I'm supposed to flash him and then hold it shut? Oh boy, come on. Turn 6 a.m. right fucking now. Uh-oh. Please, Chica, be nice. Fluppy can't hurt me. That was so gay what I just did right there. So yeah, he'll just pound on the door for the rest of the night. And if you ever let go, you immediately die. So obviously in that clip, I beat the night. And with the way I now write my Dxtr White videos, I haven't actually attempted night 5 at the time of writing. But if I had to guess, you have to flash Fred with your SMU, then close the door on him. But I guess I'll get myself confirmation on night 5. All right, night 5. The night I said I'd get confirmation on Fred's mechanic. I actually think writing the way I do bodes great for how shitty this game is at explaining anything. This night is the night I tried flashing Fred with the SMU and then closing the door. Spoiler alert, it did nothing. He still just pounded on the door the entire night. So that brings up the question, how the fuck am I supposed to deal with this guy? Well, I've got one more theory, but before I talk about it, let's talk about this night's phone call. Not much happens in it, but Phone Guy does tell us the meeting with the higher-ups didn't go well, and that he's getting fired. He said someone will be coming to collect his things, but they didn't tell him who. I find that odd because from everything that I know, you collect your things and someone is with you to make sure you don't, steal anything. That's how it went when I got let go from my previous job. So I find it weird that he doesn't even get to do that. He says that the building is closed to the public and explains that the only reason we're still here is because of a safety protocol. Now, I usually wouldn't question an explanation like that. However, Phone Guy laughs and says, "Yeah, right," after saying so. But he doesn't elaborate further. He says tonight is his last and that he'll be fired, so I doubt we'll be hearing from him tomorrow. Now, on to my theory on how Fred works. Throughout this video, you might have been wondering, Dxtr, if you didn't know how to deal with Fred, how the hell have you made it this far? And the answer to that question is, I just got really lucky. I got very lucky that Fred only attacked me once on each of the nights he was present. I got very lucky that he only chose to attack near the end of the night. I also got lucky that Fluppy, hands down the most aggressive character in the game, happens to attack the same door that Fred chose to attack, so that while I held it closed for the whole night, Fluppy was unable to get in, and I'm incredibly lucky that both Henrietta and Voss chose not to attack me after Fred had gotten to my door. This is hands down the weirdest situation I've ever had while playing a FNAF game. I've never not understood how a character worked and still have been able to get through the nights with said character active. But anyways, my new theory on how Fred works is a sad one that makes my penis invert like a groundhog. I'm thinking you have to not allow Fred to ever get to your door by using the go back feature on the cameras to constantly push him back. Is this terrible? Yes. But that's exactly why I think that's what this game is going to want me to do. We'll find out on the final night. But I think this shows a great point of how you really need to explain things to your player. I should not be struggling this hard to figure out what a character does. Sure, you could argue that the phone guy saying Fred's head snapped towards him when he used the SMU was a hint to not use the SMU on him, which sure, I think that's a bit silly, but we'll roll with it. But even if that was the case, the game explained to me how the other characters worked in detail. Why not Fred? Also, if I can't use the SMU on Fred, then why the hell is it even an option on the SMU unless to hint at the fact that I can use it on him? Maybe I'm just going insane, but I don't think I am. At least give me a death explanation like a lot of FNAF fan games do. I love that shit. Anyways, time for us to move on to the final night. Hopefully it's not too bad. Okay, so night 6. Needless to say, is not even remotely close to what I expected it to be at all. But that's not a bad thing. Kind of. Let me explain. This night begins with us getting another phone call. If you're anything like me, you may be wondering who could be calling us, considering the phone guy, whose name is Dan, by the way, I just never mentioned that, was fired. Well, a man by the name of William Afton is calling us. Remember that weird technician named Will I mentioned earlier? Yeah, it wasn't a coincidence like I suspected. William tells us he's been watching us throughout the 5 nights we've been here and tells us that our run ends tonight. This night serves as a semi-boss fight night, as once the night begins, you'll notice all of the animatronics disappear off of the cameras and are replaced by only William inside of the spring Bonnie suit. You might be wondering where the rest of the characters went, and here's your answer. Ew. Hold up. The ghosts are fucking around me. Hello? How did you guys get here? What do you have in your hand? Is that a knife? Bitch, don't come near me with that thing. So yeah, that's pretty terrifying. Anyways, how do you deal with Afton? Well, here's actually the really funny part about that. You don't. Because you can't. All of the characters are blocking your doors, preventing you from moving over to them. So when William gets to your office, you'll be dead no matter what. However, you getting knocked out by William in the office is intended, as after you come to, you'll find yourself in the back room of the building, stuffed inside of a springlock suit, with William standing in front of you. He has a classic villain monologue, and I'll just let him do the talking.
Good morning. So, finally awake? Head still ringing? Do you feel that? The weight, the locks tightening? That's the sound of control. Every bolt, every spring, by design. They call me a monster, a murderer. But I built life. I give them purpose. The world out there forgets. But inside these walls, they remember. You'll join the show now. You'll keep them company. That's what you wanted, isn't it? To be part of something bigger. The difference between us, I learned how to survive it. And I will always come back.
Thinking that we're going to be left for dead, we notice a phone on the desk in front of us. This night has us make our way over to this phone to call for help. However, we're obviously in a springlock suit, so that really isn't going to be a walk in the park exactly. We have 3 things that we can do during this section. We could walk forward slowly and lift either of our arms up. On the bottom of the screen, you'll see 3 rectangles on both sides. These are how many spring locks are in each of our arms. If all 3 go off in either, we lose. Also, if we walk for too long, our danger meter will turn red and the head of the suit will snap shut. Whenever you're holding up your arm, that arm's spring locks can't be activated. However, you can't lift up both arms at the same time. So you really have to balance which one you hold up while walking. Generally, this is the strategy. Hold up one arm and walk forward 3 steps. Switch arms and take another 3 steps. Repeat this process until the danger meter on the bottom of the screen turns yellow. Once it does, switch from taking 2 steps to only taking 2, since when the danger level is yellow, you can't really take any more than that. After completing all of that, we make it to the phone and call authorities.
911, what's your emergency?
Fred and pals. Old site. Parts and service. The suit, I'm trapped. It's crushing me.
Sir, stay calm. What is your name?
Doesn't matter. Listen. There are bodies here. Kids. Inside the suits.
Say again?
He did it. The technician Will. William Afton.
Is he present?
Yes. Somewhere nearby. Locked me in. I tried to stop him.
The rescue units are dispatched. Stay online with me and keep talking.
The children. They won't let me go.
Sir, what is that noise? Hello? Hello?
Authorities have apprehended William Afton, former technician for Fred and Pal's Pizza Entertainment. Following an anonymous emergency call, authorities conducted a thorough investigation inside the abandoned pizzeria. They recovered the remains of the missing children, trapped within the animatronic suits, and also discovered the security guard's fate sealed within another suit. Evidence confirmed William's role in the horrifying events. With the truth finally revealed, the pizzeria was closed permanently and the community could begin to heal. Though the security guard did not survive, their courage brought justice. William Afton and his grim legacy will remain forever trapped within the darkness of Fred and Pals. And now, at last, the soul of the children find peace and can move on, freed from their torment, leaving behind a sense of calm and healing. And there you have it. With that, we get the good ending, and Fred and Pals comes to a close. Overall, I think Fred and Pals was very fun, albeit a short fan game, which there's obviously nothing wrong with. This game has such a recognizable art style, and I especially love the way the cameras look. This game was wonderful at building atmosphere, the gameplay loop is interesting enough with the length of the game, and the ending does something completely different, which is always super awesome to see. Also, if you were curious, since the final night isn't a typical night, I never actually got the chance to go against Fred again to see how he worked. And at the time of writing this, I still don't know exactly how to deal with him. But I honestly think it's a lot funnier if I don't tell you, since I never learned how it worked and I was still able to beat the game. My guess is that you have to push him back in the cameras, but unless someone in the comments explains it, I'll never know, and I think that's funny. It's pretty normal for me to get suggestions for games to play, and especially so when a new FNAF fan game gets released. However, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Never throughout my entire YouTube career has a game been requested as frequently as the one we'll be covering today, and for a good reason. The game we'll be covering today is Forgotten at Fredbears, the latest and greatest FNAF fan game in this ever-growing genre. Strap in, everybody. This game has a lot of fun stuff to talk about, and you will soon see why it's so hyped up. However, I feel it does have one big downside, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Before we can start talking about what this game has to offer in terms of an actual gameplay loop, we first have to talk about what happens before the game even begins, that being the opening cutscene.
I've done security work before, Mr. Afton. But this, the hours, the pay, it doesn't add up. Why me? You are reliable, John. That's all I need. A reliable man who does his job. The previous night guards will tell you everything you need to know. Do not concern yourself with the rest.
You always knew how to cover your tracks, didn't you, William? But I know what you've done. I've always known. It's not revenge. It's justice. Justice for her. I won't let her be forgotten.
Alright, so already we've got a lot to unpack. To start, I'm assuming that we'll be playing as the guy William was talking to, John. William is hiring a new guard, but as you can already tell by the sinister look on his face, he clearly has some ulterior motives. Henry is pretty pissed, and should be. William did kill his daughter after all, but I wonder if there's any proof of that murder actually happening. Afterwards, we're booted into an 8-bit minigame with a beautiful art style. Holy shit, this pixel art and animation is phenomenal. In it, we play as Evan, William's son, the crying child. However, instead of Evan getting bullied by the teenagers, Evan witnesses Charlotte being bullied by them instead. They push her outside into the freezing rain and Evan follows after her, only to watch William, his father, approach her and kill her in the alley. Evan runs back inside to Henry, Charlotte's father, and tells him what he saw. During their conversation, we can see the security puppet bolt past them in the direction of the exit door Charlotte got pushed out of, and this minigame comes to a close. So wow, this early in the game and we already saw the death of the first child. Should be kind of crazy out here, I suppose. Anyways, moving on to talking about night 1 and what this game really has to offer. The first thing I want to point out is how beautiful this game looks, especially when it comes to lighting. The designers of this game absolutely nailed the atmosphere of this game, and trust me, it only gets better the further down the rabbit hole we fall. The controls of this game are really a masterpiece, I can't lie. In my FNAF Rewritten 87 video, I mentioned how much I hated the way the mouse controlled, and how it was probably my biggest issue with the game. I cannot make the same complaint about Forgotten at Fredbears. This just might be the most satisfying and responsive mouse controls I've ever felt while playing a FNAF game before. You wouldn't think you'd really notice a difference between FNAF games, but when you play as many as I do, it will be something you pick up on really quickly, and I really appreciate the devs of this game for nailing this so perfectly. Anyways, what about the tools at our disposal? Well, this game keeps it pretty simple. In our office, we have 2 entrances, I think. I know the door to our left is an entrance, but I'm also pretty sure that this big blurry thing in front of us is also a door, and this is corroborated by the way the camera map is set up as well. You can walk up to the door on your left, but just doing so will make it seem like it doesn't do anything at all. It will become very apparent what this door does once we start talking about one of the threats this night introduces. Of course, this game also has a camera system, as I already mentioned, and it comes equipped with several speakers to play music over. I'm sure you can guess where this is going. Before we start talking about threats, I think we should talk about this night's phone call and why I feel it's so weird. There are actually 2 phone guys, and each of their names are Joe, referring to themselves as Joe A and Joe M. They mention what we'll be doing throughout the night, but who cares about that? They also mentioned the disappearance of Charlotte and how it affected Henry. Apparently, now he's just hiding out in the basement. The Joes said they snuck into the basement to see him, but were caught and thrown onto the day shift, which is why we're on the night shift now. Very, very interesting and intriguing stuff. And if we don't figure out what's down there, I think I might tear my foreskin off. I think I should also make it clear that Henry is under the impression that William is on the night shift, so it appears William hiring us is a type of cover-up for something. Maybe that's why he looked so sinister. So, time to talk about the 2 threats this night introduces. To begin, we'll talk about Spring Bonnie. Another quick thing I want to mention is the character designs these animatronics have. They all look super sleek, but Jesus Christ, are they uncanny and terrifying looking. If I were a kid coming to these restaurants, I don't think I'd ever want to come back. These things are scary as fuck. Anyways, what does Spring Bonnie do? Well, he makes use of that left door I mentioned earlier. He will make his way around the cameras and to said door. He will then literally push it open, and I think you'll enjoy watching what you have to do for yourself next. Oh my god! What the fuck? Yo, that's fucked up. That's so fucked up that you just did that to me. Tell me that's not the coolest fucking thing you've ever seen. They're straight up tossing in some after hours at Cody's level timing shit, and I'm all for it. It really adds to the stress and tension that the actual employee would be feeling during this moment. I think it adds so much to the atmosphere and really makes it feel like you're part of the experience. The next threat this night introduces is the security puppet, easily one of the most uncomfortable looking characters to come out of this game. The way she works is very simple, but that doesn't make her mechanic stop me from blowing my foreskin up like a balloon and making some balloon animals out of it. The puppet will come out of the prize corner and attempt to get to your office. However, instead of having a bullshit music box, she instead is just attracted to the sound of music. Most of the cameras on the map have a music button I mentioned earlier. If you hold down one of these buttons, music will begin to play. However, only so much music can be played on each camera. You'll be able to see the music draining on the button, so you'll have to use it sparingly. If you play the music on a camera adjacent to the camera the puppet is on, the puppet will be dragged into that camera. Continue doing this to pull the puppet away from your office, and make sure you're keeping track of how much boof juice is in your music boxes, and you'll be a-okay. Something you'll notice is that this night ends at 3 a.m. I thought that was really weird, but guess what? We're not even close to being done talking about the first night, as we're thrown into a repair minigame after completing the main part of that night. In this vent area, there are 4 vents, one on each side of you. Ignore how we even got to this position. I'm assuming we just climbed through one of the vents possibly. The goal of this minigame is to repair each of the 4 vents by doing a different minigame for each. But before we talk about these minigames, let's talk about the 2 threats we'll have to deal with at the same time. The first and most annoying threat is Balloon Boy, because of fucking course it is. He can come through 3 of the 4 vents. You'll notice one of the vents has a door you can close on it. This vent will be reserved for the other character this night introduces, so Balloon Boy can travel through the other 3. Balloon Bitch will be laughing constantly to inform you as to which vent he is going to try and come through. Once he gets close, simply flash your light at him and he'll dive back into the hellhole he came from. The other threat in this minigame is Mangle. Mangle works in much the same way as Balloon Boy, except she can only attack the vent that has the door. She makes sound cues as well, and when the sound cue she makes is very loud, that's how you know she's about to attack. Quickly turn to her vent and hold the vent closed. Once she stops banging on it, you're free to let go and continue fixing the vents. Speaking of fixing vents, how exactly do you do that? Very simple. Just kidding, each vent has a different minigame. The first vent will have you match several symbols multiple times over. This minigame is obviously super simple, but do keep in mind you will be being attacked by 2 dickheads at the same time. Once you complete this minigame enough, you can move on to the next. The next minigame has you playing Simon Says. Easily the most frustrating of the 4 minigames for one main reason. You cannot drop the maintenance panel until the system has stopped showing you the Simon Says panels. So, if you hear Mangle about to rape your shit, you'll have to wait until the panel very slowly shows you all 5 squares you have to memorize before you can deal with her. You then have to hope to God you remember the pattern as you turn back, because if you fuck up, your repair percentage will drop and you'll be stuck doing this minigame for even longer. The next minigame is Simple Sugar. Every few seconds, a letter will appear. All you have to do is press that letter on your keyboard. Do this enough times, and we can talk about the final minigame. The final minigame blows a bit of dick. You will have 2 bars with 2 small rectangles at random points on them. Clicking and holding a bar will make it start to fill up. If you let go, the bar will slowly decrease. You have to get both bars to be inside of their small rectangles at the same time, and do this several times for the minigame to end. This isn't by any means a difficult minigame, it just makes my dick hurt and my blood pressure rise. But if you can complete all 4 minigames, night 1 will officially be completed. That's right, that was all only night 1. Hooray, hooray!
I let you take the night shift. I thought the other guards were too curious. I told you I trusted you to handle things. So go ahead, play your little card. But I know what you did, and I'll be the one who will deal with you. Our creations will be your undoing. I know the truth, and I won't let you live after what you did to my girl. I know what you are capable of. I'm sorry, old friend.
Well, would you look at that? Henry appears to be tampering with the animatronics to make them more hostile to attack William, since obviously Henry is aware that he killed his daughter. However, what Henry doesn't know is that William isn't actually working the night shift like he said he was. William is 3 steps ahead. He knew Henry would do something like this, so he lied to Henry that he'd be taking the night shift and hired us in his place. This is actually some really cool light Yagami type storytelling. I actually really like it. Now, moving on to night 2, we have the night segment to talk about, and the new threat that this night introduces. The little whiny, annoying bitch himself, Balloon Boy. Balloon Boy's mechanics are honestly pretty simple. You just need to have some decent reaction time. Balloon Boy will move around the cameras at complete random, so tracking him just doesn't even matter at all. At random times, he will enter one of your 2 vents. A very loud, obvious sound cue will play when he does so. A few seconds after you hear the sound cue, he will drop down from any of the 2 vents on your office ceiling. All you have to do is click whichever vent he's in, but you do have to be very fast since you will not have a lot of time to click on him. Once you click him, he'll crawl back into the vent like the disgusting little fucking nematode he is, and then his cycle will repeat. In all honesty, I like Balloon Boy's mechanic. Reaction-based mechanics are always something I'll favor since it's just something I feel I'm better at. However, I do have a complaint with the response of this mechanic. Let's use Spring Bonnie as an example. When you properly hit a timing during Spring Bonnie's attack, there is a visual indicator that you did so. Obviously, that being Spring Bonnie recoiling from you slamming on the door. This gives the user positive reinforcement that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing properly. Visual indicators are always very important things to have in your games for responses to the player's actions to let them know that the actions they are performing are intended. Balloon Boy has zero visual indication that you are dealing with him. Not only does this make dealing with him feel super unsatisfying every time you do it, but it can also be very confusing when you're first learning the mechanic. Let me give you the most basic example of a visual response indicator for those of you that don't want to do anything fancy. When you hover over the door to your office, your mouse changes to this sprite to indicate that yes, this is something that can be interacted with. Even this is enough of an indicator to let the player know what they should and shouldn't be trying to interact with. When Balloon Boy drops down from your vent, when you hover over the vent, not even this mouse change is present. Even though you are supposed to click on the vent, they give no visual indicator that you're supposed to do so. And when you do click on the vent, nothing seems to happen, as Balloon Boy will finish out his animation before closing the vent behind him and leaving. So when you click it, it literally feels like nothing happened at all. Is this a nitpick? Of course it is. However, I feel it's these little details that matter the most. When small things like UI and visual indicators are done properly, you won't even realize they're done properly at all, but you will realize when they're done poorly. Anyways, enough talking about that. Now it's time to talk about this night's post-night section, wherein instead of repairing the vents, this time around we're repairing Fredbear. This section is miles easier than the last. All we have to do is take Fredbear's head off, which you have to do very slowly or he will give you a rim job, which I'm personally just not a fan of. Afterwards, you'll have to remove his eyes. However, you can only remove them while they're moving or else he'll see you and
Playing your butt like a sandbox.
After that, get replacement eyes and put them and his head back on. Next, open his chest and do an Among Us wire and electrical task on his back. They even put symbols for all my other brothers who are colorblind, which I really appreciate. Put his chest back on and there's only one thing left to do. Run some diagnostics like we're Dr. House. Spoiler alert, it's not lupus. These are kind of like the salvage mini games from Pizzeria Simulator. You'll have to play some sounds that correlate to each of Fredbear's body parts. If at any point he starts twitching like a drug addict, stop holding the button, or he'll hold your butt and squeeze way too hard for your liking. After you finish that, night 2 is complete, and we move on to night 3, but not before seeing something a little interesting on our screen.
Oh shit, we got a crying bitch, dude. Get your ass up. Yeah, that's right. Get your ass up. He's home again. Did you hear the door, Evan? You saw her, didn't you? Charlie, bleeding. I didn't mean to see. I just wanted to check up on her. But you did see. You saw what he really is. He wears a smile in the daylight, but you know. You didn't forget. I don't want to remember. Too late. You know what happened to your sister, Evan? She's at Mom's. She's just visiting. No, she's not. Do you really think you're safe here with him? Lie still tonight. Don't speak. For next time, he'll open the door. No. Please don't be him. Oh. Evan, there you are, bud. Wanted to check on you. Your birthday's coming up. Got something really special planned. Yeah, sure. Thanks. Been quiet lately. Everything okay? Just tired. Alright. Get some rest then. He's lying. You saw it. Charlotte. The alley. His hands.
Henry's gone. We don't know why. You can't let him get away with this, Evan. Stop. Stop talking. You remember. And he can't know that. Ooh, shit. Night 3 only introduces one new threat, and I honestly don't feel like they're that much of an issue. But before we talk about that new threat, we need to talk about the insane phone call we got to hear. Joe A mentions that Henry was working on something that would make the animatronics be able to be controlled remotely, and they heard about it right after we noticed that Fredbear was tampered with, which was seen at the end of the post-Night 2 repair section. When Joe A mentions this, Joe M gets incredibly angry, and we hear the following crash out of epic proportions.
Joe! What the hell are you going on about? That's enough! Focus on the job, not on things that don't concern us.
Right. Sorry about that. I don't know. With Henry still missing and all, it kind of makes you wonder, like, what was he really up to? And then there's the new Freddy Fazbear's Pizza opening up later this year.
Joe, I said that's enough! We're not here to talk about that. Stick to the script. We're here to help him survive, not gossip like old ladies. Or do you want him to end up like the others?
No, of course not. I just...
So, clearly they both are aware of something we're not. And from this point forward, Joe M is going to be a character I'm not a super big fan of in the slightest. But we can talk more about Joe M later. For now, let's talk about the new threat this night introduces. That new threat being Foxy, which turns out it was not Mangle in the vent, it was just Foxy, but he was all mangled. So it was basically fucking Mangle. Foxy is a character I was originally concerned was going to be a big pain in the dick, but again, I actually don't think that it's that big of a deal at all. Foxy is obviously in Pirate's Cove on stage. Every so often, you will be able to see him leaning forward, signifying he's about to sprint to your office like Tyson Gay and dig inside you like Scottie Pippins. When you see him leaning forward like this, all you have to do is close the curtains remotely for a bit until he calms down, then reopen them. You may be wondering, Dexter, why don't we just keep the curtains closed the entire night? That's a very good question, and is actually the question I had when playing this night. But turns out, Foxy does not like it at all when the curtain is closed. And if it happens to be closed for too long, he'll grab the curtains with his butt cheeks and rip the bitches open to force his way to your office. And I think we can all agree that that is a fate we don't want to have happen. What I personally found was the best strategy as of now was to force pull the puppet to Foxy's camera and just camp the cameras constantly. Since there's no power, I don't have to worry about it. And Spring Bonnie and Balloon Boy make sound cues when they attack, so that made it really easy to know when I needed to drop the cameras. Eventually, the music box in Pirate's Cove would run out, and when it did, I'd just drag the puppet to the prize corner and keep him there for the remainder of the night. If you recall, each night only goes until 3 AM, so this actually makes it very, very easy to conserve your music boxes. I just really hope that the puppet doesn't get ass-clenchingly fast by the end of this game. Of course, after we reach 3 AM, we can move on to the post-night section, which has us restocking a supply closet, with Joe M on the phone with us, talking it through. It's during this section where we begin to hear how much of an asshole Joe M really is, as throughout this section, as he's explaining what to do, the tone in his voice is very clearly aggressive.
The closet light, and don't move.
Gotcha.
Not even a single twitch. Got it?
I got it. Damn, bitch.
Let's stock the shelves fast and clean.
It's the goal, asshole. Anyways, on to what we actually have to do during this section. Throughout it, we will get deliveries of boxes outside of the closet door, consisting of things like duct tape, paper towel, tissues, and some other shit as well. Joe M will tell us the very oddly specific places on the shelf where we need to place each item. Which, by the way, I don't know why where we place things is so goddamn important, but clearly to Joe M it is. Of course, that's not all we have to do, as Fredbear and Spring Bonnie will be trying to enter our insides, like those fucked up little crack addicts who decide diving face first into a cave called Tight Squeeze Death Trap that has a survival rate of 0%, knowing damn well they have a wife and 3 kids back at home. Each character behaves slightly differently and will require a different form of defense. If you ever see Spring Bonnie at your door, all you have to do is hold your flashlight on his face until he runs away. Fredbear is a little different. If you see him at your door, you have to shut the light off to the closet and hold completely still until you hear his big fat feet waddling away. Then you can turn the light back on and continue. After you stock every item and fill the shelves up, Joe M abruptly hangs up on us. No goodbye.
Closet stocked. You're done.
Good. Why is he such a dude? Why is he such a dickhead? I have no idea what got into him. He's acting like we're the ones who brought up Henry's new experiment on the phone. It's not my problem, asshole. Anyways, on to night 4.
I don't care. Take care of Joe A. He's gonna get us all in trouble. Hey, champ. You like the yellow ones or the red ones better? You know, I didn't get a party like this when I was your age. Back then, we didn't have animatronics singing our name.
I don't want them to sing to me.
Come on, you'll love it. All your friends will be here. It's going to be perfect.
Do I have to go?
It's only a few more days.
Evan clearly is not a fan of the restaurant. I wonder why. Considering what he saw, there's not so much to talk about in the night section of night 4. However, there are 2 things I still want to mention. The first being the absence of Joe A. Obviously, in that cutscene, William says to get rid of him, and Joe M on the phone call says we won't be seeing him again. He also continues being an asshole throughout the call as well, and ends the call abruptly. No goodbye, dick. Anyways, the second thing I want to talk about is obviously the threat this night introduces. The man, the myth, the fat bastard himself, Fredbear. In all honesty, I think Fredbear is a pretty disappointing character in this game, as he is quite literally pretty much just Balloon Boy. Fredbear will wander through your cameras and eventually make his way to the 2 big doors in front of you in your office. When he walks through these doors, all you have to do is stare at him and not move. After a few seconds and some hallucinations saying he hurt us, Fredbear will exit the office. Literally just Balloon Boy with less steps, because you don't even have to click on him. But in all honesty, I think this game shines way more in the post-night minigames rather than the actual night segments, which I actually think is pretty cool. So speaking of, what happens during night 4's post-night minigame? Well, we actually get to hear from Joe A again. He begins his message by saying if we're hearing him now, then that means something terrible happened to him. So basically, somebody murked my homeboy, and I'm gonna figure out who it is. Mark my words, when I do, I'm gonna grab their balls and squeeze them so hard they burst into little pieces, bursting his 2 balls into 38 tiny balls. Don't play with me. In this minigame, we get to speak directly to the puppet. Joe A tells us that we should never repeat to anyone what the puppet is about to say to us. There are some pre-selected questions that we'll have to ask her, and through her answers, we learn that she's Charlotte, the girl William killed in the alley, and the girl that Evan found, Henry's daughter. She mentions William, Henry, and the basement that she says nobody was supposed to enter. However, Henry has been in the basement a lot recently, obviously working on whatever he's doing to kill William. The puppet tells us that she has the key and ends the minigame by giving it to us, telling me that the final minigame we'll play will take place in that basement. However, this minigame isn't just talking to the puppet, as there are 2 major threats we have to deal with while doing so. Obviously, one of them is the puppet herself. While she's having the conversation with us, Joe A told us that she's very unstable. So if she ever starts to quiver in her boots, we'll have to use the music box to calm her down. The second threat during this minigame is Foxy. He will eventually wander into the prize corner with us, attempting to lick up the nape of our neck. He has several positions he can be seen in. If at any point he starts twitching like a drug addict, you'll have to pull the spring lock override switch to reset him. However, resetting him will also cause the puppet to go crazy mode, and you'll have to immediately use the music box to calm her down again. After we get the key from Charlotte, we can move on to night 5. Speaking of night, there is a metric fuck ton to talk about, so let's waste no time. To start, the night section is just a harder version of night 4, so we can completely skip over that as it's not interesting at all. However, the post-night minigame is something crazy.
These machines were meant to be the future, William. The start of something new. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. A place where children can laugh again. A place where you and I could have built something good.
And just like that, we've entered the basement where the original 4 animatronics are present and ready to eat our bussy. This minigame feels very reminiscent of Night 1's post-night vent minigame, where we have 4 different tasks to complete while being attacked. Each task we have to complete relates to one of the characters. Each has a different task we have to perform, while that task's respective character tries to insert itself inside of us. To start, let's begin with the main office area. There is a notepad on our desk that explains in detail how to deal with each character, but I'll be doing that for you, so we're going to ignore that part. What is important is this code on the bottom line, which gives us a termination code for each animatronic. After completing their task, we'll have to type this code into the computer to disengage them. While in the office, each animatronic has the chance to appear. When they do, just hide under the desk until they go away. Alright, so let's talk about Bonnie's minigame first. In it, there are several wires like it's Among Us. While looking at the panel, every century it feels like a symbol will appear on a small screen. You then have to cut the wire that shares that symbol. Cut the wrong one and Bonnie has a field day with you. Also, Bonnie is fat as shit. Occasionally, Bonnie will appear in the room with you. When he does, all you have to do is stare at him and hold your flashlight in his eyes, blinding him like when I was a kid and would stare at the sun for too long, or when I'd put the flashlight right up to my eyeball and turn it on. After you cut all the wires and disable him on the computer, we can move on to Chica.
But I know what you did. To her. To Charlie. You stood there and you watched the light go out of her eyes, didn't you? My little girl. And you took her from me. I thought if I gave these machines a greater purpose, if I made them strong enough, smart enough, maybe they could end you. Maybe they could give her peace.
Chica's tasks requires you to wait for 300 years for a fuck ton of switches to light up in a specific order, flicking them on after they light up. Meanwhile, Chica will slowly be approaching you through the hallway. When she gets close, all you have to do is close the door until she leaves. Once you've flipped every switch and disabled her on the computer, it's time to move on to Foxy.
Fredbear wasn't enough. Neither were the others upstairs. You slipped through again, like you always do. So I turned to the prototypes. Stronger, smarter, obedient only to me. Never to you.
Foxy's minigame is by far the best in terms of it not taking 6,000 light years to complete. All you have to do is spin this crank in a circle, more than I throw my ass in a circle when I play a FNAF game with no power and no music box. While you do this, Foxy will slowly appear out from behind the curtains. All you have to do is occasionally pull them closed and he won't be able to get you. Terminate him on the PC, and we can move on to Freddy.
I rewrote their code, set their purpose. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica. The ones buried down here. They were meant for you, William. To tear you apart, piece by piece, until nothing is left.
Freddy makes me want to die, easily being the most annoying character in this entire minigame. All you have to do is hold down a lever while a meter very painstakingly slowly fills up. Occasionally, Freddy will enter the room, and all you have to do is stare at him and not move until he goes away. The only problem with this section of this minigame is that it literally takes like 5 fucking minutes. It's ridiculous. Of course, terminate him on the computer, and the night is over, giving us this final, insane cutscene. It's a pretty long one, but you're not going to want to miss it.
I can't forgive you. Not for Charlie. Not for Elizabeth. Not for any of them. I don't know how, but you seem to destroy everything you touch. I want you to remember her face. Remember what you stole. Because everything I've built since that night has been for her. You will die here, William. And you will suffer. Thank you for getting rid of them for me. But I can't let you walk out of here with all that, John. Nothing personal.
It's Evan's birthday, and all of the kids and William are standing around us. Henry enters and mentions he needs to talk to William. William, being in the spring Bonnie costume at the time, agrees, and they head into the back room. Evan goes to follow them, but Michael drags him to Fredbear to do exactly what you'd think. I'll let the rest of the cutscene speak for itself, because it is truly one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
Well, look who finally decided to come home. You're here about Charlie. Of course you are. Why'd you do it? You really don't know. It wasn't just about her. It was about you. What? You had everything. The money, the awards, your name on every goddamn news article. Henry Emily, the genius behind Fredbears. You were the face of the future. I was just the man behind the curtain, building your dreams. You had a wife who loved you, kids who adored you, and Charlie. God, she looked at you as if you hung the stars. Meanwhile, my wife left. Michael hated me. Evan feared me. And Elizabeth got too close to one of my creations, and I just let it happen. Because that's what I do, Henry. Everything I build turns to rot. But you kept building a dream. So I tore it down. I took something you'd never get back. Not because I had to, but because I could. I wanted you to wake up like I do, empty.
Come on, give him a big old birthday kiss. Michael!
Oh, he's gonna cry again. She was just a child. Evan.
Holy shit. William went to save his child from Fredbear, but Henry remotely causes the spring lock failure while William was out in the open in front of everyone, in front of his 2 children. The spring lock failure happens in public where there are plenty of people to see, and as far as I can tell, it's not even confirmed if the bite happens. This was easily the most shocking cutscene I've ever seen from any FNAF game, and you can see my reaction to it over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. Finally, we see the locked FNAF 4 box. We get the bad ending. There's something we're missing. And don't worry, we're going to get it. Throughout this game, several crumpled notes can be found in various locations. Collecting all 6 of them will allow us to see what's inside of the box. So let's go over each location where you can find them. The first page is on night 1. It'll be directly on your desk. It reads,
Evan keeps crying every night. He says he's seeing things moving at Fredbears when nobody's there. Ever since Charlie went missing, he's been acting weird.
The second page is found inside of one of the vents during the post-night 1 minigame. However, it doesn't appear immediately. You will have to wait for a little bit before it'll actually show up, which is a bit weird. Regardless, it reads, "It's kind of funny how that balloon boy animatronic looks like me when I was little. I think Dad's trying to mess with me. He said it's a reminder of his favorite troublemaker." The third note can be found on the floor of the back room during the Repair Fredbear minigame. It reads, "Henry hasn't shown up in a while. When I asked Dad, he started acting mysterious again. Reminds me of when Mom took Liz and left. Dad won't even talk about it." The fourth page is found during the stockpiling shelves minigame. After stocking the pizza boxes and the paper towel rolls, in the hallway you'll be able to find it on the floor. It reads, "The new Freddy's place is supposed to have a Pirate Foxy animatronic. I told Dad that one's gonna be my favorite." The fifth page is found during the Speaking to the Puppet minigame. If you turn around where Foxy stands, you'll be able to see it on the shelf. It reads, "My favorite employee, Joe A, got fired today. Kinda sucks. He was pretty cool. Used to sneak me extra tokens when Dad wasn't around. At least we still have the other Joe, but he's been acting weird lately." The final note is found in the basement night. If you go to Chica's room, on a chair next to the wall is where the note lays. It reads, "Me and the guys are planning something for Evan's birthday. We're gonna make him see that Fredbears isn't scary. He needs to toughen up." Through these notes, it's very obvious that they were all written by Michael Afton. And that last note is especially eerie, confirming that the act that ends up getting Evan killed was premeditated. Now granted, clearly from this note we see they weren't trying to harm him, and it's framed in this game that Michael actually really cares about Evan and wants him to be tougher and not so scared of Fredbears like we know he is. And nothing confirms this more than the true ending. After collecting all 6 notes, we'll be able to open the FNAF 4 box, and we get to hear from Michael himself, now completely alone with no family left.
Evan, I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm so sorry. I didn't think you would go that far. I didn't think that you were always scared of that place, and I made it worse. I thought maybe you'd laugh, or at least see it wasn't real. Dad's gone. Right after it happened, his body disappeared, just vanished. Now it's just me. I didn't mean to hurt you, Evan. I didn't mean to scare you. I just wanted you to stop crying. To stop being afraid. But I messed up. I'm gonna fix it. I don't know how yet, but I will. I'll stay here. I will put you back together, and then I'm gonna go find him. I'm going to go find Dad. Wherever he is. I don't care how long it takes. Evan, just don't leave me too.
So, here we learn what will motivate Michael to do what he did in the first 2 Click Team games. After the Springlock failure, William's body disappeared, implying that, as he always says, he always comes back. Michael sets out on his quest to find his father, and Forgotten at Fredbears comes to a close. Overall, I think Forgotten at Fredbears is an insanely good retelling of the origin story of what started all the conflict in Five Nights at Freddy's. It's easy to follow, yet there are several little things you can pick up on early in the game that hint towards what's going to happen, and I love that. I do think that the night section gameplay mechanics are pretty weak, and I do believe that the post-night sections are where this game truly shines. Scopophobia is the irrational fear of being persistently stared at or watched. For most people, I feel being watched is one of those things that is just universally feared. Several forms of media have been made around it, from books to movies, and of course, horror games. But what about FNAF games? What is the scariest FNAF game you've ever played? And while playing it, did you get the strange feeling that you were being stalked? Banshee is a new FNAF fan game created by Kimarzuru and released fully on July 23rd, 2025. For a lot of people, the FNAF genre hasn't grown boring, but has lost a lot of the fear factor that it once had. I know for me personally that is the case. Sure, cheap jump scares will always startle people, but actually being scared is something that most FNAF games just aren't capable of doing anymore. Banshee, however, is different. Banshee isn't just scary, Banshee is horrifying. Grab a drink and get ready to jump into the rabbit hole that is Banshee, Five Nights at Freddy's most horrifying fan game. Banshee is a game heavily inspired by the original Five Nights at Freddy's Pizzeria Simulator, mainly taking inspiration from the night sections of that game, wherein instead of beating the night by surviving, you instead have to complete multiple tasks, making the length of the night dependent on you. Of course, when you think of Pizzeria Simulator, the very well-known salvaging sections may come to mind, and don't worry, Banshee has those too. Before every night, you will have to salvage a character in much the same way you do so in Pizzeria Simulator. On night 1, you have to salvage Springtrap. Pause. This design is actually horrific. This is gross. I haven't seen a model from a game that made me as uncomfortable as this one has in a long time. And trust me, they only get more grotesque and uncomfortable as we follow the White Rabbit. To salvage a character, you must first play an audio cue from the tape player in front of you. You can hold up the milligauss, I don't know, to measure the animatronic's aggravation. As you play the audio, the meter will slowly rise, and having it stay on the highest setting for too long will result in a death. Additionally, your tape player may start to malfunction while the sound is playing. If you hear this, you must stop playing the tape for a few moments before turning it back on. The animatronics do not like when the tape player is broken. Once you have the animatronics aggression maxed, input some info into the computer, and it's on to the real night section. And let me tell you, if you thought the night gameplay from FNAF 6 was stressful, you're not ready for what's in store for you in Banshee. Night 1 introduces 2 characters. You may be wondering how that's possible since we've only scrapped one. And that's because one of the 2 characters was in your restaurant from the beginning, that threat being Yellow Bear. Ooh. Wait, am I not safe? Why do I get the feeling that I'm not safe? What the fuck was that? But before we can talk about the threats this night has to offer, we first need to talk about the tasks at hand and our environment. In our office, we obviously have a computer, as well as the doors to our left and right, and a window in front of us. Pressing Control will open up our computer, and this is where the first stressful mechanic comes into play. Unlike most FNAF games, where you have your mouse as the main source of user input with the occasional control key, Banshee makes use of your entire keyboard. No, I'm not joking. Your computer has 2 screens, your command screen and your camera screen. You may notice you're unable to press any buttons on the camera screen that would allow you to see around the building. So, how do you see additional cameras? This is where your command screen comes into play. By typing the command CC and pressing enter, you will get access to your camera controls, which is obviously what the CC stands for, dumbass. You can then use your arrow keys to transfer up and down between cameras. No, you cannot use your arrow keys if your camera controls are not up, which means if you're working on something else like a task and need to check a different camera, you will need to type in the camera control command and then start sifting through the cameras. This is obviously stressful as fuck for a number of reasons. On later nights when things begin becoming more hectic, if you're not a fast typer or you can't remember where the keys on your keyboard are without looking, then this will pose a very obvious problem. I mentioned your tasks. What are those exactly? Well, you have 4 tasks you have to complete. Kind of. You don't actually have to complete any tasks to beat Banshee, as there still is a 12 to 6 a.m. timer. So, what's the purpose of the tasks? And to be truthful, the answer is that I don't really know. At the end of each night, it tallies how many tasks you've completed, and that seems to have something to do with how much money you get. So I'm assuming that the only downside is not having money for your tycoon, which is needed for the true ending. But there may be another reason I'm unsure of, and the wiki is no help. Anyways, back to the tasks. Task number 1 requires you to look at 2 items that are going to be shipped. You will have to check if both sides are identical. If they are, type Y and press enter, and if they don't match, press N and then enter. Do this 8 times and the task is complete, but if you ever mess up, you will have to start back from 0. This task is not challenging, but when paired with the other threats this game has to offer, it will quickly become stressful to even be able to manage this. Task 2 requires you to read an excerpt of Who the Fuck Knows What, and either archive it or shred it. To keep it simple, if it's good press, archive it. If it's bad press, shred that bitch. Task 3 involves sitting on your fat lazy ass and waiting for a code to decipher, and then inputting the numbers and pressing enter. Task 4 is much the same, but instead of numbers, it's arrow inputs. And that's all the tasks, which means we can start talking about the threats that this night has to offer. The first of which being the one I mentioned earlier, Yellow Bear. While you never really actually see him, he does still attack you. Throughout the night, you will be able to see posters, drawings, and books around your office that start to change to say "It's me." If too many of these anomalies occur, Yellow Bear will appear and kill you. In order to make these anomalies go away, you will need to look forward, not have your computer on, and close your eyes for who the fuck knows how long. When you open them back up, they should be gone. If they're not, close your eyes for longer next time, dumbass. Hands down, the easiest threat in this entire game. The other threat is obviously Springtrap, or as this game calls him, just Afton. Afton will walk around the cameras and make his way to your left door. When he's there, he will make no sound cues. Or at least, if he does make a sound cue, I was just never able to hear it. When he is there, all you have to do is turn at him and stare until he moonwalks back into the darkness. Again, some of the creepiest shit I've ever seen.
So where is he?
What the fuck was that? Oh my god, that's actually so fucked. Dude, that's actually so fucked up. That's actually so fucked, dude. Oh my fuck. Oh my fuck. And that's it. Either by completing all the tasks or surviving until 6 a.m., the night will be finished and we're safe to move on to night 2. Now, before we do that, this is where I should probably talk about the tycoon section of this game, but that whole pile of bullshit will be saved until later, because in my full playthrough, which you can see on my second channel, Dxtr Black, I butchered the tycoon sections so fucking horribly, you have no idea how badly I fucked them up. So I'll just save that for later. For now, we move on to Salvage 2. Salvage 2 is called Molten, who I originally thought was Ennard. And maybe it is, and this is just another case of the game giving it a different name. I'm not sure. Regardless, he is obviously the threat introduced on this night. So, how does he work? He actually has 2 different mechanics and methods of attack. The first is very similar to Afton, except he attacks from the right door instead of the left. Same thing for him, just look at him and he'll go away. However, once he goes away, he has a chance to initiate his second attack, which by the way can also happen at any time, not just when he leaves your office. Your lights will begin to flicker and an audible sound cue will be heard. This tells you that you need to very quickly find Molten on the cameras. God, is there a FNAF game in existence that doesn't have this fuck-ass mechanic? Whatever. Obviously, you'll probably be doing a task when this happens, so you'll have to type the camera control command and then start using the arrow keys to find him. When you do, you will need to type play and press enter, which will begin playing an audio lure on whatever camera you're looking at. This audio lure will make Molten piss off, which makes everyone happy. Overall, not too difficult. However, from what the community has said, Molten by far caused more deaths than any other character, and I can somewhat agree on that. Night 3 has a scrap Lefty, who in this game is a girl. Maybe Lefty was a girl in the original too? I'm not sure, not important. Lefty can prove to be a very frustrating character, but once you understand how she works, it really shouldn't be an issue. Lefty will very slowly move through the cameras to get to your office. However, if she gets to your office, she'll kill you no matter what. So you have to find a way to keep her from reaching you. Once she progresses to a camera, she will never move back. However, you can use the audio lure on whatever camera she's in to slow her down. This won't stop her from moving, but it will slow her progress dramatically. So much so that even on the hardest non-custom night she appears in, she only ever moved once for me. This obviously does bring up a conflict with Molten, but with how slowly Lefty moves, getting back to her camera in time to put the lure back on really shouldn't be much of an issue. Night 4 introduces the final new character, Baby. Baby is easily the most infuriating character throughout this entire game, and it's not even close. Baby will move through the cameras. Who the fuck cares? Once she's in your office, she will appear in the window in front of you. After a few seconds, she will either walk left or right. Depending on which direction she walks, you will have to close the door on the corresponding side. Something I didn't even know you could do up until this night. After you close the door, a small sound key will play letting you know she's left, and then you can reopen the door. This doesn't sound too hard, I hear you saying. Well, I haven't told you about the bullshit butt-fuck wombo combo butt bang strategy that she has. Basically, the bullshit butt-fuck wombo combo butt bang strategy involves Baby doing a fucking fusion dance with Molten. And when they do, they decide it'd be really fucking funny to attack you at the same time, which, if you couldn't have guessed already, is literally an immediate loss, as both means of fending them off take up a decent amount of time. The amount of time it would take is enough to have the other butt fuck you in the ass, hence the name bullshit butt fuck wombo combo butt bang strategy.
There's Baby up there. Oh. Yeah.
This is cooked. This is cooked. This is actually cooked. Bro, I'm fucked. I'm fucked. There's nothing I can do about that. I was pressing enter, you. That was just cooked. There was nothing I could do about that. I don't know how long I have to hold it for Baby. And he was on my ass. I really didn't know what to do there. Really didn't know what the option was. This is really the only huge RNG problem this game has, and it doesn't happen nearly as often as something like Torbani Vent Aids does. Finally, we have Night 5, which is an interesting night, to say the least, as it's actually easier than Night 4. Sure, the animatronics are more aggressive, but I still think overall it's probably easier than Night 4 is. No new threats are added, however, one of them is removed. That being Lefty. What is the reason for having Lefty not present on this night? I'm really not sure. So this night goes just about as well as you'd expect it to. And with that, the game is over. We get a final monologue from Henry as he burns down the building with us inside, mentioning how he didn't want us to go, but he needs to bring his daughter back. I'm gonna be honest, I don't give a fuck about this ending. You wanna know why? Because it's not canon in any way. Yeah. This is the bad ending, by the way. The true ending has a lot to do with the tycoon sections of the game. And god damn it, that means it's time for me to go over this bullshit. First, let's go over how I fucked up this tycoon section as hard as I did. When you first load up the game and open the tycoon section, this is what the tycoon looks like. Fantastic. Looks like we're going to build off of this. Pretty interesting and different from the original. Wanna know the fucking hilarious part? The game expects you to press this button and erase your tycoon save data so that the tutorial for the tycoon section will begin playing. Does it tell you to do this? No. So why the fuck would I even think to do it? Sure, I pressed the button and saw the message to erase the save in my playthrough, but this is literally the first time I'm seeing the tycoon. Why in God's green fuck would I think to reset the data of the tycoon when I've never seen it look any different? I'm expecting to get comments calling me stupid for not figuring this out, but fuck you. You wouldn't buy a game, start the game up, and then think, actually, before I start playing this brand new game I've never played before and is brand fucking new, I should reset the save data for it first. You would never think of that. I'm sorry, this is just the most retarded thing I've ever seen. There is literally no indication whatsoever that I should reset the save. If there was indication, then there wouldn't be an issue, but there isn't. I'm just shown the tycoon and that's it. But hey, let's just relax for a moment and pretend like this part of the game actually makes sense. What exactly do you do? Well, you obviously go through the tutorial and learn how to play the tycoon, and then can get to building. And then from there, it's just Pizzeria Simulator. Buy things from the catalog and add them to your pizzeria to get points and level up. Fantastic! Completing the tasks during the nights will give you the money you need to buy more in the tycoon sections as well. Fantastic! Now, after completing night 1 is where the game starts to get a bit interesting. On the main menu after completing night 1, you will see this big red box. Clicking on it will reveal a statue of a Banshee. Turning it to its side will reveal a note describing that you need to look northwest to find a key. Wait one night and look again to find a door, presumably that the key would be used in. Going to your tycoon and scrolling all the way northwest, you'll be able to see a small red dot. Clicking on it will reveal a golden rose, which is presumably the key that was referenced in the note. Now, pause. I'm going to complain here again about how I fucked this up so badly. I had no idea that the map could be scrolled. Why? Because I was never taught in the tutorial, and I never saw the tutorial for reasons explained earlier. However, what I did do was click around the top northwest corner of the screen looking for this key. Clicking the big sign reveals a very dark red screen with some random text that'll become important later. So, this leads me to believe that this was the thing northwest that I was supposed to see. I thought I was doing the right thing. This series of coincidences is actually insane. Sure, there's no literal key here, but that led me to assume that the key was a metaphor for something else. Now tell me, would it be unreasonable for me to suspect some kind of retarded metaphor from a FNAF game? I don't think so. But whatever. After beating night 2, if you go back to the tycoon and press the red dot again, you'll see a golden pillar. Altar? I don't fucking know what this thing is. You can place the rose you got from the previous night there, which reveals a drawing of the marionette. The same drawing that you can see in your office above your computer. During night 3, if you click the marionette poster, you'll see what I believe to be a chair and a clock. I think. I have no idea what I'm looking at. You can push the chair underneath the clock and the pendulum of the clock will fall. You can then collect the pendulum. You will then get kicked out of the night back to the title screen. Clicking on the red box again will show the statue once more. You can then take the pendulum and place it into the stomach of the statue. Seriously, don't read into this too much. This is some fucked up Aoni type puzzle. Don't read into it, just accept it. After completing night 3, if you click the red box again, you'll get a cutscene. In it, you'll see clouds parting in the sky and a code appears behind them, along with the text, "The safe." Then you can go into your tycoon, and instead of typing tycoon into the directory, you can type clown, which will start up a remake of the clown minigame from Pizzeria Simulator. You can also play the ball pit minigame and Midnight Motorist. As I'm sure you could have guessed, the Midnight Motorist minigame actually serves some sort of importance. This minigame plays a lot differently than the original. It's a text-based adventure rather than a side-scroller. In it, you can walk around a forest and look at trees, something you all have never done before. Searching some of the trees, you can find a pendant. Walking to a lake, you can find an old man fishing. This person is who I assume to be Old Man Consequences. If you talk to him, he'll tell you the story of a girl who found a rabbit. The rabbit eventually dies and her father gets her to bury it. Later, she digs up the corpse only to find that the rabbit's fur had turned yellow. Oh my god, guys! Like Spring Bonnie, do you get it? Can you fucking believe it? Oh my god, I'm gonna bounce up and down, dropping my cheeks and testicles all over my desk! Oh yeah, you can also give the old man the pendant you found and he'll say that it belonged to her. Looking in some more trees, you can find blood-stained glasses. If you bring them to a man by a house, he'll tell you that they were your brothers. After beating night 4, you should be able to buy the safe item from the tycoon. We'll get to that later. Clicking on it will prompt you to type in a code. Typing in the code we saw in the cutscene earlier will open the safe, revealing a picture of a locked gate inside. After buying everything else in the Tycoon section, if you load the original version of the Tycoon and click the logo, you'll be sent to the gate. If you've done everything correctly, clicking on it will spawn you onto a boat. On the boat, you're told a story. Once again, I assume this story is being told by Old Man Consequences. He tells the story of Charlotte, Henry's daughter, the girl who was pushed outside of the pizzeria in the rain and left outside where she was later found dead. The story is abruptly ended by the line, "She isn't there anymore, Henry." Finally, if you've done everything properly and at the right times, when you enter night 5, the puppet will be present, likely being the reason Lefty isn't there. The puppet acts as this game's final boss. So let's quickly go over her mechanics. The puppet can appear in any of your 2 doors. When she does, simply close the doors and she'll go away. Additionally, she will play a laughing sound cue. When she does, you must find her on the cameras and stare at her until she leaves. And as far as I'm aware, that's all that she does throughout this night. That may not seem like a huge issue, but of course, when paired with everything else and the bullshit buttfuck wombo combo butt bang strategy at the same time, this can be a very stressful night. But if you manage to beat it, you'll get one last cutscene. Michael Afton, alone in the suffocating darkness. He turns his lighter on, only to see the yellow bear, his own brother, staring back at him. Unable to look away, eventually even his brother leaves, leaving Michael truly alone. Knowing there's nothing left that he can do, Michael sets the building ablaze, killing himself while also allowing the souls, his brother, and Charlotte to rest. And with that, Banshee comes to a close. But hold up! Want to hear something awesome? If you remember, I said you have to get the safe in order to get the true ending. Well, I was chatting with the owner of the FNAF fan game wiki, City, and he told me that it is literally impossible to get the safe on your first playthrough, as it isn't possible to get enough experience to get to level 5. Since your Tycoon save and your game save are separate from each other, you can restart the main game and still save your Tycoon as it was, making it possible to reach level 5 and buy the safe on the second playthrough. I personally think this is one of the stupidest things I've ever seen. Forcing someone to play through the entirety of the game twice to get an ending is insane. Yes, I'm aware New Game Plus is a thing, and yes, I hate New Game Plus as well. But aside from that, this game is truly fantastic. From the visuals, to the gameplay, to the atmosphere, and of course, the amazing retelling of the FNAF 6 story, I think it is easily one of the best FNAF games of recent times, if not ever. Easy S-tier game, and I would highly recommend it. This game does such a perfect job of bringing the fear to this series that I feel it really needs. The story of Five Nights at Freddy's is grim, and the game should amplify that, not take away from it.